My parents abandoned me right before my 13th birthday, but last month, they crashed my engagement party yelling, "You don't deserve love after what you did to us." But hours later, my fiancé grabbed the mic and said, "Tell them what you told me about that night." Their eyes went wide. I don't even know how to start this. Honestly, I wasn't even gonna write about it, but a few friends told me it might help. So here we are. My name's Colin Reyes. I'm 29 years old, living in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Most days, I'd tell you my life's pretty normal. I work as a mechanical engineer for a company that makes parts for heavy machinery. It's not glamorous, but it pays well and I'm good at it. I've got a decent little 2-bedroom apartment near the river, a used Chevy that's somehow still kicking after 12 years, and until recently, a pretty peaceful life. I'm engaged to Leona Carter. She's 27, works as a nurse at Erlanger Hospital, and she's about the best thing that's ever happened to me. Sweet, sharp, funny, and just gets me in ways nobody else ever has. We met 3 years ago at my buddy Vince's barbecue. She accidentally dumped a plate of potato salad right onto my jeans and spent 20 minutes trying to blot it off while apologizing 100 times. I couldn't stop laughing. She thought I was weird for not getting mad, and I thought she was weird for caring so much. I guess we're both a little weird, and that's why it works. Anyway, we'd been planning this engagement party for months. Nothing crazy. Just close friends, some family, a little food, a little music, a lot of bad dancing. We rented out this small event hall downtown, one of those cute ones with the exposed brick and old string lights drooping across the ceiling. Leona had spent a whole Saturday stringing up paper flowers and candles in mason jars. It was the kind of night you dream about when you're a kid, imagining you are happily ever after. And for the first hour or so, it was perfect. I was standing by the bar, laughing with Vince about something stupid. He was doing an impression of Leona's uncle trying to two-step, and I didn't notice the door at first. I didn't notice the tension crackling in the air like a bad storm rolling in. Then the shouting started. "You don't deserve this." The voice cracked through the room like a whip. Everyone froze. Conversations dropped mid-sentence, forks hovered midair. I turned around and my heart stopped. It was them. Martin and Felicia Reyes. My parents. I hadn't seen them since I was 12 years old. And there they were, standing in the doorway of my engagement party, looking wild-eyed and furious, as if I was the one crashing their night. "You don't deserve love after what you did to us." Felicia screamed, her face twisted into something that barely looked human. There was a long, awful silence. People were staring at me, then at them, then back at me. I felt like I was watching my own body from outside myself. Leona rushed over, grabbing my arm. "Colin, who are they?" I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. I just stared. Martin pointed a shaking finger at me. "Tell them what you did, you little traitor. Tell them the truth." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My throat was dry, my head spinning. "Security," Vince barked, stepping between me and them. But Martin just shoved him aside. No, they need to know who they're celebrating. A liar. A backstabber. The room was in chaos now. People whispering, phones out, someone calling the police. I should have felt humiliated. Maybe I did. But mostly, I felt 12 years old again, small and scared and helpless. Leona squeezed my hand. Hard. She leaned in and whispered, "Do you want me to handle this?" I managed a tiny nod. I couldn't even think. She turned around, calm as a damn surgeon, and said, "All right. You have something to say? Say it. Right now." To his face. Felicia scoffed. "Oh, he won't. He never tells the truth. Always playing the victim." Martin growled, "Tell them about the night you destroyed our family, Colin. Tell them what you did." I opened my mouth. Closed it again. My chest was tight, my hands shaking. "I didn't destroy anything," I croaked. "You left me." Martin's face went purple. Felicia started sobbing theatrically, covering her face with her hands. "You're lucky we didn't call the cops back then," Martin snarled. At this point, the police actually arrived, 2 officers, young and tired-looking. One of them, Officer Harris, pulled Martin aside while the other tried to calm Felicia down. "Sir, ma'am, you need to leave or you'll be charged with trespassing," Officer Harris said firmly. Felicia shrieked, "He ruined us. He cost us everything." But they were herded out, still yelling, still blaming me, still making a damn scene. The doors slammed shut behind them, and the silence they left behind was worse than the yelling. Everyone was staring at me. Leona didn't let go of my hand. She didn't even flinch. Instead, she grabbed the mic from the DJ's stand and turned to face the room. "Some of you might be wondering what that was about," she said, her voice steady. "I already know. Colin told me everything." She looked over at me, her eyes soft but fierce. Colin, tell them what you told me about that night. My stomach dropped through the floor. My palms were sweating. Every nerve in my body screamed to run. But I didn't. Because if there's one thing Leona's taught me, it's that hiding only gives the people who hurt you more power. I took the mic from her, my hands trembling so bad I thought I might drop it. They left me, I said, my voice cracking. Not the other way around. When I was 12, my dad got arrested for embezzlement. He was stealing from the company he worked for almost $1 million. There were gasps around the room. Someone dropped a glass. And instead of facing it, they ran. They took everything they could grab and skipped town. Left me behind. Alone. With a neighbor who didn't even know they were gone until 2 days later. I swallowed hard. I spent the next 6 years in foster care. Nobody came back. Not once. Not even to check on me. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I blinked them away. They told people, they told the courts that I had turned them in. That I had ruined their lives. But it wasn't me. I was 12. I didn't even know what was happening. Their company caught them. They were under investigation for months before they bolted. But it was easier to blame me than take responsibility. I looked out at the sea of faces. Some were shocked. Some were crying. Some looked like they didn't know what to think. I looked at Leona. She gave me a tiny nod, her eyes shining with pride. So yeah, I said, voice breaking. That's what they meant. That's why they hate me. Because I'm a reminder of what they did. And because I survived without them. I set the mic down carefully. I felt hollow, exposed, terrified. And then the most amazing thing happened. The room started clapping. Slowly at first, then louder, stronger. Vince whooping. Leona's mom wiping tears from her eyes. Her uncle slapping me on the back hard enough to knock the wind out of me. I realized I wasn't alone. I realized. I had a family now. The clapping went on for a while, and I just stood there like an idiot, not really sure what to do. Part of me wanted to crawl under a table and disappear, but another part, the bigger part, felt lighter than I had in years. Maybe ever. Leona slipped her hand into mine and leaned close. You did good, babe, she whispered. I squeezed her hand back hard. The DJ tried to get the music going again, some soft background song to fill the heavy air. People awkwardly went back to eating or drinking, though every so often someone would glance at me like they didn't know whether to come over and say something or leave me alone. I didn't blame them. I barely knew what to do with myself either. Vince wandered over first, bless him. He clapped me on the shoulder and said, Dude, you should have led with that. You're a badass. I let out a shaky laugh. Yeah, that's me. Total badass, I muttered. No, seriously, man. Screw them. You turned out good. Better than good. He gave Leona a wink. Smart too. Locked this one down. Leona laughed softly and leaned her head against my shoulder. And for a minute, it felt okay again. Not perfect, but okay. Then my phone buzzed. I pulled it out and saw the text. Unknown number. You're dead to us. Always were. Always will be. I stared at it for a second, then hit block without even thinking. Leona caught the look on my face. Them? I nodded. Do you want to leave? She asked quietly. I thought about it. God, I wanted to say yes. But then I looked around, at my friends, her family, the people who actually gave a damn, and I shook my head. No, I said. I'm done running. She smiled. Good. We stayed. We danced. We laughed. And for the most part, the night ended up being beautiful in a weird, messy, bittersweet kind of way. But of course, that wasn't the end of it. Because people like Martin and Felicia, they don't just go away. The next morning, I woke up to about 30 missed calls. Half from random numbers, half from blocked ones. Leona was still asleep, curled up beside me, her hair a mess across the pillow. I watched her for a minute, letting the calm soak in. I didn't want to break it. I didn't want to think about anything ugly. But of course, I did. I slid out of bed, careful not to wake her, and went out to the living room. The early morning sun lit up the apartment in soft gold. I sat on the couch, staring at my phone, debating whether to check my voicemail. Finally, curiosity won. I played the first one. It was Felicia, sobbing so hard she could barely speak. I can't believe you, after everything we did for you. I hung up before it finished. Next one, Martin, cold and flat. You think you're better than us? You're trash, Colin. Always have been. Next, another sobbing message. Next, threats. It was like reliving my childhood in real time. The constant guilt-tripping, the rage, the fear. I felt 12 years old again, small and stupid and worthless. Except, I wasn't. Not anymore. I deleted them all. Blocked every number. Then I sat back, breathing hard like I'd just run a marathon. Behind me, I heard Leona's soft footsteps. She padded into the room, wearing one of my t-shirts that hung halfway down her thighs. "You okay?" she asked, voice thick with sleep. I nodded, even though I wasn't sure it was true. She flopped down beside me, tucking herself into my side. "You know, you don't have to deal with this alone." "I know. You're not that kid anymore, Colin." "I know," I whispered. She reached up and ran her fingers through my hair, gentle and slow. "You're not them." Those 3 words hit harder than anything else could have. I closed my eyes, leaning into her touch. "I'm scared," I admitted. "I know," she said. "It's okay to be scared. Just don't let them take any more from you." I nodded again, swallowing the lump in my throat. We sat there like that for a long time, the mornings stretching quiet and golden around us. Over the next few days, it only got worse. They started showing up. First outside my work, then outside our apartment. Always just standing there, watching. The first time, I almost convinced myself it was coincidence. The second time, I knew better. The third time, Vince had to physically hold me back from charging across the parking lot. "Not worth it, man," he yelled, dragging me back. "You touch them, they'll spin it. You know they will." He was right, of course. They were baiting me. I didn't take the bait. I called the cops instead. Not that it helped much. They got warnings. Slaps on the wrist. Nothing that would actually make them stop. Meanwhile, my nerves were shot. I jumped at every noise. I barely slept. Leona kept telling me to think about getting a restraining order, but part of me hated the idea. Hated admitting they still had that kind of power over me. But one night, about a week after the engagement party, it came to a head. Leona and I were coming home from dinner. It was late, almost midnight. We were laughing about something stupid. Some guy at the restaurant who kept yelling at the waiter about inferior napkin texture when I saw the shadow by our door. Martin. He was standing there, arms crossed, looking like he owned the place. "What the hell are you doing here?" I barked, stepping in front of Leona. He smirked. "Just visiting my son." "You're not my anything," I snapped. He took a step forward, and Leona grabbed my arm. "Don't," she whispered. Martin laughed, low and mean. "What's wrong, Colin? Afraid? You should be. People don't forget traitors." My hands curled into fists. Every instinct screamed to hit him, to knock that smug look off his face. But Leona was squeezing my arm, grounding me. "Get the hell out of here," I said, low and hard. "Or I swear to God, I'll have you arrested." Martin's smirk didn't falter. But he backed away, slow and deliberate. "This isn't over," he called as he disappeared into the night. I shivered, not from the cold. Leona pulled me inside, locked the door, and then just held me. We didn't say anything. We didn't have to. We both knew. It wasn't over. Not yet. The next morning, I finally caved and called a lawyer. His name was Derek Holt, an older guy recommended by Leona's uncle. Derek had a voice like gravel and the no-nonsense attitude of someone who'd seen way too much bull SHT in his life. After I explained everything, he said, "Restraining order's the right move. Should have done it already. People like that, they only understand consequences." I rubbed my face, feeling tired down to my bones. "They'll probably just ignore it." He snorted. "Then we call the cops again. Paper trail's your best friend right now, kid. Trust me." So we filed a temporary restraining order first, then the longer process for a permanent one. The court date was set for 2 weeks later. I didn't tell Leona everything about what that meant for me, how sick it made me feel just thinking about sitting across from them in a courtroom. I didn't tell her about the nightmares either, the ones where I was 12 again, locked out of the house with nothing but a backpack and the sound of my parents driving away. She had enough to worry about. And besides, I wasn't that kid anymore, right? A few nights later, I was in the kitchen making late-night grilled cheese when there was a knock on the door. I froze. Leona peeked out from the bedroom, towel around her head. "Who is it?" she called. I didn't answer. I edged to the door and looked through the peephole. No one, but there was something on the ground. I cracked the door open a few inches. A piece of paper fluttered inside. I picked it up, heart pounding. "You're making a big mistake." No signature. Just the words, scrawled in jagged, angry handwriting I recognized all too well. I slammed the door and locked it, double-checking every bolt. "What was it?" Leona asked, appearing behind me. I showed her the note. She went pale. "That's it," she said. "We're getting cameras. Now." And we did. Leona's uncle, bless him, came over the next day and helped me install security cameras at every angle. Front door, back door, parking lot, even inside the living room. It made me feel a little safer. But not much. The day of the court hearing finally came. It was raining. Of course it was. Leona and I sat in the hallway outside the courtroom, waiting to be called in. My hands were slick with sweat. She kept holding them anyway, squeezing tight every few seconds like she could physically pump courage into me. When Martin and Felicia showed up, I felt like throwing up. Felicia was wearing this fake-ass church dress, all high collar and pearls, as if she was some poor, wronged saint. Martin was in a wrinkled suit that smelled like cigarette smoke even from across the hall. They didn't look at me. They didn't have to. Their lawyer, some smug guy named Troy Ellison, sauntered over like he was about to squash a bug. "You know this is a waste of time, right?" he said, all fake friendly. "Families fight. Judges don't like getting involved." Leona stood up so fast her chair skidded back. "Families don't stalk their kids and leave death threats," she snapped. Troy raised an eyebrow, amused. "You must be the fiancé." "Cute." I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but the clerk called us in before I could. Inside, it was cold. Sterile. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. I sat there while my lawyer, Derek, laid it all out, the harassment, the notes, the history. Felicia started fake crying halfway through. Loud, dramatic sobs that made the judge's eyes narrow in irritation. Martin just sat there, arms crossed, glaring at me like he wished he could set me on fire. When it was their turn, their lawyer went on about family bonds and misunderstandings and how they just wanted to reconnect. I almost laughed. Reconnect? After 17 years of silence? The judge, a stern-looking woman named Judge Anders, wasn't buying it either. "I've seen enough," she said, cutting Troy off mid-sentence. "Temporary order stands. Permanent restraining order granted." Felicia gasped like she'd been shot. Martin muttered something under his breath. The bailiff barked, "Step outside," and they were escorted out before they could say anything else. I sat there numb as Derek packed up his papers. "You did good, kid," he said, clapping me on the back. I nodded slowly, still not quite believing it was over. At least legally. Outside, Leona hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "It's over," she whispered. "It's finally over." But deep down, I wasn't so sure. Because 3 nights later, someone slashed my tires. And the same night, someone slipped a photo under our door. It was a picture of 12-year-old me, standing on the front porch of my childhood home. Scrawled across the bottom in red marker, "You will always be alone." I sat on the couch staring at the photo for a long time. It wasn't even the photo that got to me. It was the message. "You will always be alone." They wanted me to believe it. They wanted me to crawl back into that scared, broken place where they left me all those years ago. Leona found me like that, sitting there with the picture in my hands. She didn't say anything at first. She just sat down next to me and leaned her head on my shoulder. "What are you thinking?" she asked after a long while. I took a deep breath. "I'm thinking they want me to be 12 forever." She was quiet. "But I'm not 12, I said, my voice shaking. "I'm not helpless. And I'm sure as hell not alone." She smiled and kissed my temple. "Exactly." I looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman who had stood by me through the ugliest parts of my life without even flinching. I wasn't alone. I had her. I had friends. I had a life I built with my own damn hands. And they had nothing. Suddenly, a new kind of anger lit up inside me, not the wild, helpless rage I felt before. Something sharper. Cleaner. I wasn't going to fight them on their level. I was going to beat them my way. The next day, I went to Derek and laid it all out. "I want to go after them," I said. "Legally." He raised an eyebrow. "For what? The threats?" "No," I said. "For the past." He leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "Go on." I told him everything, how they'd abandoned me, left me with nothing, how they fled while under investigation. How there were no charges back then because they disappeared before anything stuck. "I want to reopen it," I said. "Whatever we can find. Civil suits. Old debts. Anything." Derek grinned slowly. "Now you're thinking like a winner." Turns out, when you dig into the past of people like Martin and Felicia Reyes, you find a lot of dirt. Unpaid debts. Fraud. Property abandonment. Even a few outstanding warrants in states they'd skipped out of. And the best part? Since they'd resurfaced, very publicly, thanks to the engagement party disaster, they were no longer flying under the radar. Derek and his investigator, a wiry guy named Miles, worked fast. Within 3 weeks, they'd put together enough paperwork to choke a horse. And we filed everything. The lawsuits hit them like a wrecking ball. Creditors they thought had long forgotten about them suddenly came calling. Old victims they'd screwed over started lining up to press charges. Even the IRS got involved after Derek tipped them off. I didn't even have to lift a finger after that. It was like watching a slow-motion avalanche bury them. They tried to fight it, of course. Sent me more threats. Showed up once outside my office yelling and waving papers until security threw them out. But it didn't matter. They couldn't touch me anymore. The final cherry on top came 6 months later. I was walking downtown with Leona, hand in hand, sipping coffee, when I saw the eviction notice taped to the door of the crappy motel where Martin and Felicia had been living. Leona caught me staring and squeezed my hand. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded slowly. Better than okay. And I meant it. Our wedding was small. Just close friends and family. No drama, no screaming matches, no unexpected guests. Leona's dad walked her down the aisle. Vince was my best man. Her grandma cried so hard during the vows she had to borrow napkins from 3 different people. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," I kissed Leona like the world was ending. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I wasn't waiting for someone to yell or leave or tell me I wasn't good enough. I was free. At the reception, after the first dance, Vince handed me a beer and said, "You know what the best revenge is?" "What?" I asked, laughing. He clinked his bottle against mine. Living well. And damn if he wasn't right. I wasn't 12 anymore. I wasn't alone. And I sure as hell wasn't broken. I was exactly where I was meant to be. Happy. Home. Loved. And no matter what Martin and Felicia did next, if they did anything at all, they'd have to live with the fact that they lost. They lost the second they left me behind. And I won. Without lifting a finger in hate. Without sinking to their level. Just by living a life they could never touch.